Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think. Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings, cretins.
Yeah, what has two thumbs and thinks the world of John Palmer? This guy right here, huh?
Thank you.
That's right.
I'd say it was a little monkey, that slaps cymbals together or something.
Yeah,
it's Jamil, right?
yeah, a little monkey that slaps the cymbals. That's me. You see me slapping my cymbals. Oh, yeah. Nothing I enjoy more than slapping my cymbals. All right, yeah, we're doing another Q&A show. We're gonna keep doing these until we work through that giant stack I printed out of questions. Oh, good questions. That's the thing. I was looking through our Brew Strong email, and there wasn't like a clunker question in there. There was like
That's
one,
true.
and it was about something about how somebody couldn't get our Brewing Classic Styles or How to Brew on ebook
for
the Kindle. But you can, and they took it off for a momentary time, and they're actually working on. One of the problems with the ebook in the past was that it was just a scan of the book,
right?
So it wasn't searchable or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So somebody let me know about that, and I let the publisher know. I'm like, hey, we want our books in like a searchable format. So they're working on that and paying for that and making that happen. So should happen eventually, but. The ebook should always be available, and
right.
Both
How to Brew and Brew Classic Styles should be available.
So we make a whopping 60 cents off of those, and But the important thing, and the reason I push buying Brewing Classic Styles is because I want you to buy it through AHA or buy it through your local homebrew shop or buy it through the Brewing Network, especially. Because when you buy it through those, I guess where else can you buy it? If you buy it through Amazon doesn't need the extra bucks, and they sell it for a discount. You can get it cheapest probably at Amazon.
Right.
If you pay an extra few bucks and buy it through your local homebrew shop, that goes directly to their bottom line, and that keeps your local homebrew shop in business. That helps. That helps keep them in business. And the next time that you're desperate for that pitch of yeast or that extra hops or something went wrong or whatever, you just want to go hang out and chat with somebody who's geeking out over beer like you're going to wish you had your local homebrew shop. Seriously. We're supported by some of the bigger homebrew shops, that are national and do mail order. They are fantastic, and you want to support those guys as well. But don't forget your local homebrew shop. Good people, and hey, if they're not, then fine. Don't go to them. But generally, that's who's running them is a good homebrewer like yourself. So support them, support the Brewing Network. You buy it by the Brewing Network. Brewing Network gets a good chunk of change if you buy a book from the Brewing Network. Palmer and I get pennies, but that's okay. That's not why we're not why we're doing it. That's why we have other jobs. But it's important to keep in the Brewing Network, solvent. Same thing goes for the AHA. So that's why you want to spend a little bit more. The nice thing about the Brewing Network is you get them signed.
Right, and I'm going to be signing books today.
So you buy from the Brewing Network, you get them signed, and helps support the Brewing Network. So that's why we promote them, not to line our own pockets. Which we're sitting on yachts, we're sipping pina coladas. Why would we need more lining of our pockets? Absolutely not.
I want a pina colada.
No, pina colada. You're misunderstanding what a pina colada is.
Oh,
it's a drink.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
It's a fruity coconut-based cocktail with rum. All right. Anyways, support our other great sponsors.
Yes.
Blickman Engineering. BlickmanEngineering.com with 2 N's. Good guy. Really is. And very generous with his support as well. So, contact BlickmanEngineering.com. Go to the website, check it out.
Send him an email.
Yeah, send him an email. He loves it. He really loves it. He, it makes the guy, I wouldn't say giddy,
but darn near.
But it probably cracks a smile when he sees an email from a Brewing Network listener that says, hey, thanks for supporting the show. It's like, okay, so my money was not wasted down some hole. Actually, somebody's listening and appreciates it. So, that's what he's getting out of it. So,
and if you're looking for a brewing stand that can grow with you as you, grow in the hobby, check out the Top Tier Brewing System. And if you get one between now and the end of January 2011, you could have Jameel and I and John come and brew with you on it.
Yep.
Help you set it up, help and do your first brew.
You come out to your house, or you can come out to my house if you want. As we threw that in, Blickman and I were talking. We're like, hey, actually it'd be pretty cool. You could come out to Jamel's house and brew. I got a beautiful top-tier system.
Right.
You come out and brew on mine, and we'll actually take you down to the studio with us. Palmer and I and Blickman, and we'll sit and we'll do a show together. You can be with us for the show.
I gotta want to know what your family thought of that when you first proposed to.
They still don't
bring
know
a few
about
strangers. Really, attaboy.
Well, you got to blame it on the first winner of Brew with Jamel way back when.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Justin telling me, we're gonna have somebody brew with you. I'm like, no, I know, I want some freaky nut job coming by my house. And the guy turned out to be the sweetest, nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Very respectful of, me, my family, and, not intruding. And, I had to invite him in, and he was just wonderful. And that convinced me. And also, all the trips that we do out to, various events and stuff that you and I do. Everybody there is just so nice. I've run into like one jerky guy once. Other than that, everybody, I'm like, hey, next time you're out in my area, come on by. I'll take care of you. You can stay at my house, whatever. I met a couple guys in New York. God, now I can't think of there's Brian and Brad, or Brian and Brad, and I can't think of their names. Real nice guys. I said, hey, if you're out, we were talking, having some beers, and hung out with them for a while. I said, next time you're out in my area, you want to stay at my house? I got a room. You guys can stay. A couple of brothers. I don't think they believed me at all. They kind of looked at me like, oh, no, he's just blowing smoke. But no, seriously, if I told you to come on by, I mean come on by. Don't say anything I don't mean. So, it's really cool. Some people you just get along with.
Mm-hmm.
And
you don't run into bad brewers. I mean, it's
rarely.
Yeah, rarely.
Some people are jerks, but the majority of them I would have over to my house. So. Get yourself a top-tier system. If you're thinking about one, getting one eventually, just go ahead, pull the trigger on it. Tell the wife that's your Christmas present, or tell her that not divorcing you is your Christmas present. And,
think of it as a step towards economic recovery.
That's right. Imagine all the beer you can brew on that bad boy. And before I forget, we got another new sponsor for Brew Strong. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. It is AdamandEve.com. And it's not just for the guys, it's for the gals too. It's for anybody. Adam and Eve, they've got a specialty item there for all you folks. No matter which way you go. They've got sex toys, vibrators, lingerie, adult movies, sexy extras. They got all sorts of good stuff to, let's say, enjoy yourself. Or enjoy yourself with somebody else. That's even better. All you need to do, go there, check out the site, adamandeve.com. You spell out the Adam and Eve, or you can just say adameve.com. And if you enter the code JAMIL, JAMIL, you'll get 50% off one item. You get 3 free adult DVDs. You get a free extra gift, sensual gift, and you get free shipping. So for just a couple of bucks, you're going to get yourself quite the collection of goodies. So check it out. AdamandEve.com, new sponsor for Brew Strong. All right. So what we're going to do is a Q&A show. So if you're listening live, you can actually jump in the chat room. Go to thebrewingnetwork.com. There's a chat now. You jump in there and you can ask questions, and we'll answer them live on the air. Otherwise, we're going to dig through our backlog of email to brewstrong@thebrewingnetwork.com. So what we'll do, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get right into your questions right after this.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge.
Hey, BN Army, you think you're badass? Well, you are, kind of. Like badass, but without the balls to blow something up. HopTech in patriotic Dublin, California recognizes your nearly badassness with a BN Army discount on every order. But there's something those boys and girls in the real Army should know. If you have an APO address or a scan of an active PX card, HopTech salutes you as an actual badass and offers their things with a 15% discount on every purchase. That's the HopTech way of saying thanks to all active military personnel. 15% off ingredients, kits, equipment, as well as games, books, gifts, and more, all at HopTech.com. Whichever Army you're a member of, any branch of the military, or the BN Army, HopTech in Dublin says thank you with great discounts. Call 800-DRY-HOPS. Visit the store in Dublin, California, or go to HopTech.com. HopTech, serving homebrewers for 28 years.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 10 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer and Brew for Your Die IPA in the Northeast, Northwest, parts of the Midwest, and Alaska in cans and on draft. So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in the can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
And now, Northern Brewer brings you another installment of The Time Brewers.
When last we left our heroes, they found themselves in 1842 in the province of Bohemia.
Yo, this era jerky. All the beers is murky.
What ho, friends, a male alewife.
I don't know what I'm doing, so I got this dark malt, yeah? More stinky dark beer, yeah.
No, sir. Please, wait. Just a moment.
Aye, a package from the future from Northern Brewer.
Use the Pilsner malt, my good man.
And these Sots hops, sucker. They ain't noble like Queen Victoria, but you can use Sterling from Portland to Astoria. Let your wort caramelize and let melanoidins harmonize in a long boil. Keep your starter under cover with aluminum foil. Boo.
And use 1,000 bog myrtle.
Northern Brewer is your one-stop homebrew supplier throughout the entire fermento chronosphere. The widest selection of quality malt, hops, yeast, $7.99 flat rate shipping, and get your nasty-ass bog myrtle back to the dark ages, Brother Abelard.
Hey, this golden lager with the happy hops pretty damn good. Thanks, Time Brewers. Thanks, Northern Brewer.
Our work here is done, my friends. Now, to wherever we are next needed.
Tune in next time for the continuing adventures of The Time Brewers.
Hilo, what's it feel like?
Take awesome and multiply it by 2.
Yeah! Spraying live beer radio all over your face.
Can't get
any better than this, baby.
It's the Brewing Network.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're doing live Q&A. It's here. It's the Palm, the hairy Palm, and the Jipper.
I wish
here in
Palmer
the studio
had
with
5 sisters. That's a joke that writes itself over and over again.
You'd want to bang every last one of them, huh?
No, I was at Nordstrom yesterday, walking through, on the way to the food court. And,
sure, go ahead.
And they had this sign there. It says, bring your girlfriend and 25 friends and have a lingerie party. And I turned to my wife and I said, that sounds like a great deal. Hon, who do you know?
Give me 25 of your hottest friends, dear.
Lingerie, I'll be there.
Is your wife a puncher? Did she, give you one of the solar plexus?
Yeah.
One of the side of the head?
Worth it.
Just to see the look on her face?
Yeah. My daughter gave me
I often say things to my wife just to see if she'll slap me.
Yeah.
She never does, but
keeps the excitement in the relationship.
I think, the first couple of years she may have. Now she just expects it from me. I still do it. Now it freaks out my kids.
Yeah.
They look at me.
Now they're at that age where it's uncomfortable.
Well, no, they don't even freak out now. They just go like, Dad. They crack up, So who knows?
Not me, man.
All right. So we're here in the studio with the Jipper, and he is running things.
I am.
It's a little unusual for me and the Palmer.
Unusual to be run by anyone.
Okay. All right, so we're doing live Q&A. What's our first question?
Our first question actually comes from the chat, and we have longtime friend Kim Wood on the phone. Kim, are you there?
Hi.
Miss Kim.
Kim Wood, what's up?
Hi, guys. I love you.
Hello, Kim.
We love you, too.
John, I don't really know you that well, but I still love you, but we're going to have to get to know each other.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Little.
Yeah, you got to join in the Wood tomfoolery.
Yeah.
So,
get to know.
I have a really important question.
Sure.
That I really just can't figure out, and I thought you guys could help me.
Oh, I'm sure we know the answer.
Yeah. I need to know why, for the very first time, I let Andy co-brew with me to enter for competition, and got the lowest scores that I've ever gotten compared to when I enter solo. So how do I fix this?
Well, it's very complex, and there's a lot of inputs that could potentially be the problem in this situation, and it really deserves a lot of deep introspect into what could possibly be the issue. But if I had to point to one thing or the other, I would point to the fact that Andy is a suck-ass brewer, and you are an awesome brewer. So, really what you want to do is avoid having Andy help you with anything brewing related. Now, when it comes to, cleaning up the house, taking care of the pets, mowing the back 40, Andy's your guy. When it comes to anything like that, I'm sure he's more than capable, or he's somewhat capable of handling those duties. But when it comes to the brewing, really, Kim, you're the one to handle that aspect of things.
Jamil, I got to take a little different point of view on that. I think, it's a little harsh, but maybe if you compare, Andy to, say, Justin and Kim to Chad.
Exactly.
That, maybe a little closer to the truth.
That's a beautiful, beautiful relationship there. Yes. How Justin relies on Chad to have decent beer to drink. So I think, the thing to take away from this, Andy, is you're very lucky to have a woman like Kim, and, do whatever you can to hold on to her so you have good beer to drink. And then, you really just don't have to focus on brewing so much anymore. Kim will do that for you.
Watch your back, dude.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. Hey, Kim, I don't know who you're talking to, but your laundry is almost done, and I'll have your dinner ready soon.
Yeah.
And I just cleaned out the cat litter.
There you go.
So I don't know who you're talking to, but is that okay? I'll be in my room.
Faster. Okay. Hang up. Go away.
Bye.
All right, fantastic. So I'll have him clean my mash tun. I mean, clean my mash tun, and all of that.
Is that a
and
euphemism
leave
for
him out of. Well, okay, well, great. I think you've solved my problem, and thank you very much. I knew I could count on you guys.
Well, and Kim, I've got a Can You Brew It beer coming up for you. Kim's going to join us as one of our Can You Brew It master brewers. So,
nice.
Yeah, she's going to
right,
have a task at hand, and as long as you don't blow it on that first one, we'll have you back for another. If you blow on the first one, then we'll just erase that episode, and it never happened. See how we work things?
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Kim.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye. Always good to get a call from the woods.
Yeah. Nothing more I like than having some wood.
That's true.
Yep. All right. What's our... we got one from the email address, brewstrong@brewingnetwork.com.
That's right. This one's from Catfish. It says, hi, Jameel and John. Oh. You all right?
Catfish Jeff?
Catfish Jeff.
Oh, my buddy.
I have a question. I've been brewing all grain for several years. So far, I've been keeping with my system and process pretty simple, but I've recently ordered one of the new March pumps. I really want to make the most of my pump. Beyond quickly chilling my wort with an immersion chiller, what is my new pump good for? I have some ideas of recirculating mashes and pumping out of the boil kettle, but no real knowledge of what I'll be doing. Please feel free to include many jokes about pumping. Thanks, Catfish. Which you don't really have to say that last line because it's just going to happen.
It's a given. Yeah.
So what can Catfish do with this pump besides pumping?
Besides pumping. Well, there's a lot of opportunities for use of a pump in a brewery. Mm-hmm. Anytime you're transferring one, especially liquids, I guess it's hard to do solids or gases with those March pumps. But liquid-wise, what I use my March pump for is recirculating the mash, the liquid from the mash, and I recirculate it through a Herm system, or what Morbier calls a smart system, which is goes through a coil that's sitting in a hot liquor tank and then back up to the mash, and that keeps the mash temperature steady or allows you to do steps. Mm-hmm. The other thing I like about that is it clarifies the wort, so you don't have to do that recirculation step at the end.
Right.
And sets a nice bed and things like that, and helps with extraction of flavor and color and things like that. So I really like that. You can transfer your sparge water. I use it to pump the sparge water up to the top of the mash,
right,
and let it drain out of my kettle. You could actually use a pump to pump from the kettle to from your mash tun to your kettle,
mm-hmm.
if you want to do that, or from a grant to your kettle. And so you can use multiple pumps. When it comes time for transferring chilling, I use a Whirlpool chiller.
Right.
And you see on MrMalty.com, I will pump the liquid out and back up into the kettle to cause a whirlpool to affect, and it chills much more rapidly, and I get the whirlpool, so I get a cone of brake material in the center. That works really well. And then in the past, I used to pump my wort. Once the kettle was done, I would pump it from there about 25 feet to the refrigerator where the conical was, and pump it into there for fermentation. So you do that. You can even pump your beer after it's done. I wouldn't do some of these things I worry about as far as
inadvertent oxidation
or contamination or things like that. But on the hot side, use your pump for any sort of transfer you need.
Yeah, I find it real convenient to be able to step away from the strict gravity, 3-tier gravity-fed system, because unless you've got a variety of step ladders around your brewery, it's nice to have everything on the same level, right at below shoulder height, so you don't have to stand on your tiptoes to stir something. You can just stir right there at a comfortable level, and then use the pump to transfer the wort between vessels.
Well, that whole tiptoe thing, it reminds me of Dr. Scott, who I believe he runs doesn't Dr. Scott run a level system, JP, from, doesn't he run one of those flat, where all the vessels are the same height?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And he uses pumps from one to the other. And one of the other things that Dr. Scott does, he will, he made a...
pole dancing, or...
No, he made a...
he's not very good at that.
A keg cleaner, carboy cleaner, So you use a pump for that, and you're essentially recirculating the liquid up into the carboy or keg and like a spray ball and CIP, cleaning that thing, and then using the pump for that. That's another great use of a pump.
Yep.
So you can use it for cleaning, you use it on the hot side. We'd avoid using that kind of pump on the cold side once you're past your boil. That's where it starts to get a little iffy, unless you're totally. But good question.
Yeah, and I guess one final thought is that you put a ball valve on the outflow of the pump to regulate flow, not on the inflow, but on the outflow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was in Fargo. Wonderful place, Fargo, and great people. Yeah, I loved it out there. I could live out there.
Oh,
Absolutely.
sure. Oh, yeah.
You betcha.
You betcha.
Oh, yeah. One person says you betcha. Everybody else doesn't. I just loved out there. And one guy, he had troubles with his March pump, and he's like, it just stops pumping. It fills up with air and just stops pumping. So he's ended up like, he's like, it's more work than not having a pump. And what it turned out to be was he had kind of a J bend pickup in his keg. He had a converted keg for his hot liquor tank, and that J bend was filling up completely with air, and it would pull little bits of air, and they'd collect in the pump impeller, and then the pump would stop.
Yeah.
And so at one point I got him, we worked with it and got all the air blown out of the lines, and then it worked perfectly. And so he was much happier once he got that working. I told him to take the J bend off and just put more water in his hot liquor tank. Not worry about picking it up off the bottom. It's a little bit of just plain water. So with that, a pump, it can be just a great advantage. I mean, it makes things more consistent. Because the pump doesn't get tired. It just works the same all the time. And, something like sparging, I do that with a float switch, so it just turns on when it needs to pump the sparge rod. I walk away, Same thing on mash temp. I don't worry about mash temp. So I love having a pump. Pump is a great tool to have. All right. Great question, Jeff. Catfish. Keep on listening, buddy.
Another question?
Please.
Do it.
Sure.
Right. Since you mentioned Whirlpool, we have a couple questions about Whirlpool. One's from Henry, and the other's from Jesse. And Jesse's questions will answer Henry's questions, but I will like to say that Henry signed off his email with, "And I'm loco for them locos." So, Henry, appreciate that. So Jesse says, "Hey, guys.
All two of us locos.
What's that?
All two of us locos.
All two of you.
We're two loco. We're not four loco. We're two loco."
That's right. You're better than that. You're condensed. Hey, guys. I listen to your podcast religiously, yet I have a couple of questions based on some of your suggestions. First, about me. I've only been brewing for about 3 years, and I'm currently an extract-only/partial boil brewer. Here's my scenario. When I boil a batch, 3 gallons or so, it's on an electric stovetop. My brew kettle is a 4 to 5 gallon pot without a valve to drain on it. My typical process is to add my immersion chiller 15 minutes before the end of the boil, and then cool the wort as soon as the boil is done. From there, I pour the wort into my better bottle using a funnel. My issue is that the majority of the trub from my kettle is making its way into my fermenter. This leads me to my questions. One, you have advised not to transfer wort into a secondary fermenter. However, I presume that recommendation is based on less trub being in the primary. Considering that the majority of what is in my kettle is ending up in the fermenter, should I still be transferring to a secondary fermenter when fermentation is done? 2, short of getting new equipment, is there an effective way to use my setup to do a whirlpool? Will having my immersion chiller in the pot interfere with the whirlpool? Should I try siphoning the wort from the outside of the kettle instead of pouring it? Should I invest into a ball valve to add to my kettle? And the last question is, when whirlpooling, should it be done before or after the wort is cooled? I was under the impression that it was optimal to cool the wort as fast as possible after the boil, but it sounds like you were recommending to whirlpool before cooling, wait 30 minutes, and then cool. I know it's a lot, so I'll run down them if you want. But
right. So, wow, so many things. I'll start with the ones I can remember, and then remind me of the ones that I can't. The whole whirlpool, while hot or cold, the reason for whirlpooling really The reason I'm using a Whirlpool chiller is that it cools the wort far more efficiently than not whirlpooling. So it's just a matter of cooling very rapidly. So what I would do is stir while it's hot, get it stirred real fast and going, and then put the lid on and turn the cooling on, and you'll experience much faster cooling, and it's just more efficient. It's a better use of your time and resources.
Because you're moving the wort past the chiller.
Right, and you're getting hot wort again past the chiller instead. Because what happens is the coils, they get surrounded by cold wort, as it chills. If you don't replace that with hot wort, then it just kind of insulates itself and nothing happens. The other thing is, as far as forming a Whirlpool tube pile in the middle, if you get it stirring enough and get it going, what happens is the particles move from the faster traveling outside part of the wort to the inside, where the wort's moving slowly. They start to drop to the bottom. They'll pass through all these layers, but when the wort's not moving, which is right in the center of the kettle in the Whirlpool, those things will drop straight to the bottom. If they're traveling, otherwise they'll keep going. So that's why it forms that cone pile in the middle. As far as siphoning off the side or adding a ball valve, if you can add a ball valve and have like a sanitary way of adding that and making sure it's always sanitary and leak proof, then great. You can add a ball valve. That's a nice, convenient way. Otherwise, siphon off from the edge and just siphon carefully. You should be able to get fairly clean wort out from your kettle. Once it's cooled, then you let it settle. You don't settle while it's hot. You could, but whirlpool and then chill and let it settle. As far as break material in the fermenter, it's generally not that big a deal, especially for ales, but it's a big a deal when you are looking to repitch your yeast. You want a yeast pitch just full of break material and bacteria and hops and all sorts of crud mixed in with it. Those break materials, they can form a coating on the yeast cells and actually impact viability of the yeast. So that's one of the reasons that you don't. But if you're not repitching your yeast, then it doesn't matter at all, really, or it matters very little as far as flavor impact goes. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. The thing is, if you're boiling concentrated wort and then you are drawing off and worrying about leaving behind break material and not drawing off enough of the wort, that's going to affect your ability to hit your target gravity. So I would kind of worry about that. So there's all the ones I could remember. What didn't I cover?
Good question. I think the main one was when whirlpooling, should it be done before or after the wort is cooled?
Right. So after the wort is cooled is when you transfer. But you whirlpool at the very beginning. And the idea with the pump is you're whirlpooling continuously until it's cooled, and then you shut off the pump, you let it settle, and while it's cold. But if you don't have that, go ahead and give it a vigorous stir, put the lid back on, and then don't touch it, and you'll get better cooling, and you let it settle, and just let it cool all the way down, and then go ahead and transfer.
Yeah, there's I think some brewers have gotten confused from reading the emails. Looks like they're a little confused on whirlpooling and whirlpool chilling as we talk about it versus whirlpooling as a professional brewer does it in their facility. The whirlpool at a big brewery is trub separation before it goes in the fermenter,
right?
And not so much. They're not whirlpooling to chill. Mm-hmm. They're just whirlpooling to do trub separation,
right?
What we talk
and
about.
they'll whirlpool hot for 30 minutes,
15
to 30 minutes, and you're actually getting isomerization during that time, and
right.
Your hop character changes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we like to kind of stop that right away and lock in our hop flavor and not do that.
Right. Yeah. It's two different techniques, and with little different desire coming out of each of them. But in terms of the what we're trying to do with the Whirlpool chiller, we're stirring the wort so that the trub settles into a cone at the center of the thing, allowing you to transfer less trub to the fermenter. And two, by using the pump with the immersion chiller, you're continually moving hot wort past the chiller, and you end up with a more efficient chilling that way.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
those are the two key points of what we talk about.
Well, and people will also do this with not just the immersion chiller, but they'll do it with the Blickman Therminator. And you can do that as well. The trick there is to devise some way of keeping the hot bits from flowing through the Therminator. Blickman has his hot blocker, and that's one way. You can use scrubbies or things like that, because you just don't want a bunch of hot bits getting stuck in the Therminator and blocking it up.
Yeah, because that does happen.
The passages are real small. And it was one of the reasons it's so efficient in cooling. But if you have a Therminator, you can do that and recirculate back into the kettle and get nice rapid chilling of the entire volume. Because one of the things about counterflow chillers is you're only chilling a small portion of the wort first. So the rest of it's sitting hot. You're actually, if you're boiling short, you're generating DMS. You're affecting your hop character. It just depends how fast you move it out, what kind of water temperature you have, things like that. But that's one other option as far as
when I used an immersion chiller, I had a real large 50-foot half-inch coil immersion chiller, and whether I was doing a 5-gallon or 10-gallon batch in a converted keg, I'd pick up the whole chiller and
swirl it around.
Move the whole chiller around.
I would rock the entire kettle.
Yeah.
And get the wort swirling.
Yeah.
And then I'm standing there sloshing boiling wort over my wrists, and I'm thinking, there's got to be an easier way. Oh, I got a pump. Let me try pumping it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. All right. No, good question. Let's do this. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get back to a couple more wort chilling questions. Back after this.
Since 1921, Muntons has been a provider of quality malted grain and extract.
What did he just say?
That's 90 years of locally sourced grain for home brewers and professional brewers alike. All farmed within 50 miles of our malt houses.
What? I can't understand what this guy said. The last part.
Whole and crushed malts, including wheat and peated malt, liquid extract, hopped and unhopped, as well as dried malt extract. Everything from beginner home brewer kits to all the ingredients an advanced home brewer needs.
Something about trains? What language is this guy speaking? He's from Austria.
Muntons is proudly serving brewers in 54 countries and honoured to be a leader in malting.
Can you understand this guy? No. That's a really weird language.
Ask for Muntons malt and malt extract at your local home brew shop.
Muntons, for brewing, distilling, and baking. Quality malted grain and extract for 90 years. Make your malt Muntons.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for every beer style. I want a Cicerone.
The Cicerone Certification Program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a Certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious. Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
Hi, this is Push from the Brewing Network, and I want to tell you about the Brewmaster's Warehouse and how you can get 10% off your next order. I'm a pretty techie guy, but I've never seen an online store like this. It's awesome. Go to brewmasterswarehouse.com and click on Brew Builder. You can whip up a custom recipe so easily even Sven could do it. Seriously, it's slick. You can share your recipe with your own logo and notes to the Brewmasters database if you want, and the best part, it keeps a running tally of the beer you're building while you're doing it. Then, bam, click Buy Recipe, and your cart is filled and ready to go with helpful suggestions in case you forgot something. This thing is amazing. Brewmasters Warehouse is run the way a home brewer would do it, with great service, fast turnaround, and $6.99 flat rate shipping. Brewmasters Warehouse and the Brew Builder blew me away. Check it out today at brewmasterswarehouse.com. I'm serious. And don't forget to put BNARMY in the discount code box for 10% off your order. Check out brewmasterswarehouse.com. Cheers.
Do you support the Brewing Network? Do you brew your own? Are you looking for an economical, fun, and legal way to do both? Subscribe to Brew Your Own magazine and do just that. All year long, Brew Your Own will surprise you, entertain you, and educate you with articles on beer and brewing from authors like the Brewing Network's very own Jamel Zainasheff and John Palmer. Each issue is a full pint of brewing techniques, homebrew stories, tips and photos, projects to make yourself, and recipes for the avid home brewer. Get your tough questions answered by Mr. Wizard and polish your style accuracy with Jamel. A portion of every subscription goes to the Brewing Network, so subscribe today at byo.com/Brewing Network, or just click the BYO logo on the Brewing Network homepage and support a fantastic hobby and your favorite broadcaster. Brew Your Own, the how-to homebrew beer magazine.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew strong.
All right, we're deep in the middle of Q&A. Having loads of fun here in the studio. It's always a joyous time,
yes.
Even this holiday season. When you're thinking of others, just have a beer or whatever. I don't know where I'm going with that. Next question in our lineup of joy.
That's my question. That's my turn.
Yes.
Right,
your cue to speak.
Just settling things down here. This is specific to Palmer.
Heretic.
This is from Dan. He goes, John, big fan of the book and big fan of Brew Strong. As a metallurgist, I thought this question would be right up your alley.
Alloy?
Right up your alloy.
Wow.
There you go. Engineer humor.
That's a good joke. Okay. I have a copper chiller that is a little too big for my kegel and has become quite ugly looking from forcing it in and out of the opening. I'd like to reform it, but it seems to have undergone...
Beat it and tell it it's bad.
It seems to have undergone significant work hardening. Can I just throw it in my oven at 250 degrees for an hour, let it cool, then rebend? And then he gives you a link, but it didn't show up here. Here they list typical annealing temperatures of alloy 122 at 700 to 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. This would probably be not worth the energy. Thanks for all the good info. I owe most of my brewing knowledge to you. Regards,
I like
Dan.
that.
So how does he redo his copper chiller? Or can he?
The oven at 250 won't be hot enough, really, unless you leave it for days. But the faster way would be to either throw it in the oven and take it up to like 500 degrees, and that would definitely do more to anneal it. Or use a propane torch.
It's like 1,500 or 2,000 or...
Well, one of the... I think you was talking also recrystallization where you get some ductility back. But the kind of an easier way is to take a propane torch and just run that over it. And
when you see the color change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can... that'll allow you to do local areas where you want to bend it. You don't necessarily have to do the whole thing.
Right.
But...
If like your penis curves to the left, you could do the same thing with a propane torch.
I wouldn't use
get a real curve going on.
Yeah,
you see those porn movies, the guys like like Moby Dick, and
they need to switch hands. That's what they need to do.
Remind you, we drink during these shows.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting the question. Yes. So finish it.
Yeah, full annealing. You want to go to higher temperatures. Propane torch works well. Or you could go hotter in a conventional oven, like 500 degrees. Just make sure you take the rubber washers out of any fittings you may have, so that it's all metal in there. And a couple hours would do it.
Right. Okay. Look at John's eyes. It's like, why in the world am I doing this show with this guy? You got nobody better for me to do this show with?
Well, and the sad news is you don't have a contract to run out either, John.
That's right. It's for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got you.
Whatever.
First they changed
moron
producers
they
on you.
set you up with. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
That's what I was telling John. I said, you're on your way out when they suddenly give you a new producer.
Right. Yeah.
And then they changed the format.
We can't go top tier on you anymore.
All right, here's a quick
Actually, we got
one.
somebody like listening to the show now, which is quite a joy.
Well, we have a couple
JP.
people.
I thought his name was
I meant
Kim.
you, JP.
Yeah. Oh,
Instead
thank
of
you.
Justin, he doesn't listen. He has no idea what's going on in the show.
Yeah, I'm interested because I'm new.
All right,
Give me a few shows, and then I'll just be surfing porn on the
by
internet.
the next show, it'll be exactly. It's like, what are you doing over there? No, just enjoying myself.
Yeah,
Listening to the
that's
show.
all. All right, here's one from Death Rider in the chat. It's a pretty basic one, which I kind of like. Question for Jay-Z and Palmer. If I go to a 10-gallon system, what's the minimum ideal mash tun size?
10-gallon batch. You're going to want you really want of like a 15-gallon or a 20-gallon pot to mash in.
You can do it with you can do 10-gallon batch beers. If your 10-gallon batch you're boiling for 60 minutes, then you can get away with just about 15 gallons should do. You can work out depending on how much dead space you have in that mash tun.
Right.
You should be able to do 30 some odd pounds of grain, and should be able to do something like a Doppelbock. 10 gallons of Doppelbock.
Right.
That's if you're doing a 60-minute boil. It's easy. If you're going up to a 90-minute boil, then the boil kettle tends to boil over.
Yeah.
It depends on the size of your boil kettle. If your boil kettle is 10 gallons, then you're screwed. You're never going to do a 10-gallon batch of beer. If your boil kettle is about 15 gallons, a 15-gallon mash tun should get you close to a 10-gallon batch of most beers. If you, like John's saying, if you do a 20, you got a lot more flexibility and a lot more room. When you're dealing with a 15, you're got grain all the way to the top. You're reducing your water to grist ratio. You're doing a lot of things to make that happen.
You have to fly sparge that.
Right. That's true. Yeah. 15 will do it. 20 is nicer. One of the nice things, it's plugging the sponsor, but it's one of the nice things about the Blickman systems is you can take, when you have a top-tier system and you have one of those burners, you can put any size keg, pot, whatever on those things. They've got adjustable feet that kind of hold it in and steady so it doesn't slide off and kill you. And so you could do a 15 or a 20. You can swap out whatever size you have, and that works really well.
Yeah. Also, from a mash tun point of view, you can. That's when people tend to go to the rectangular coolers, where you've got a 30-gallon cooler,
right?
That you're only filling up maybe halfway with the grain because you've got enough floor space. Put in a big slotted copper manifold, and you can mash very well on that.
And again, not like I'm pimping anything for Blickman, but one of the nice things about the top tier, again, that I really love is you can swap out different. You can start with just a shelf that'll hold the mash tun for you,
right? And
then later on, if you want to go with a heated mash tun or something like that, you can go to a burner and that'll hold it as well. So. Lots of options there. The thing I love about it best is I can reconfigure it myself.
Right.
I can put on different pieces, parts. I can put them in different positions, different heights. So that's what I feel is the real value of that burner system.
Yeah, you buy it and you're using it 10 years later because
you'll always be able to adjust. Yeah, good stuff. All right. You got another one for us, JP?
Good answer, guys.
Oh, I'm glad you think so.
He's paid to say that.
I am paid. Well, I'm not really paid to say it. I'm paid in beer, which is kind of nice because I get a ride home today, too. So I can get all crunked out. This one's from John, and he writes into brewstrong@thebrewingnetwork.com. And if you want to be like John, you can, too. Write in your questions, and the guys will answer them. I'm a home brewer in Brazil, and I'm a home brewer in Brazil, and as I live far from other brewers...
When I think of Brazil, I think of like Brazilian butts and thongs. And...
No, that's not wrong at all, man. I'm sure John thinks about that every time he writes Brazil, too.
Okay.
Yeah. He goes, I'm in Brazil. Big old booties. He lives far from other brewers, and the mail from the States is not really fast enough for liquid yeast. I have to make do with dry yeast. I recently learned that there is evidence that dry yeast need not be aerated or oxygenated. What is Jameel and John's take on this question? Thanks for all the great shows, John.
Well, for him, I would suggest that he buy a good dry yeast, like 1056 or something like that.
They call it USO5.
USO5, okay. Get a good dry yeast, and then
1056 is a product name of the Y Yeast Corporation.
That's true. Yeah. So you start with a dry yeast, rehydrate it, build a starter, and then keep that culture going. That becomes then a liquid yeast culture that he's working with, and so that just you've got to ranch that yeast, keep feeding it, keep cultivating it, and that cuts down on. Well, then he doesn't have to worry about buying a liquid yeast and trying to get that there in any kind of freshness. He's got a good strong yeast bank himself.
And the issue with that is only if you can maintain the sanitation required to have very clean yeast cultures. If you're going to keep repitching that liquid yeast, you really need to be very careful. So there's a couple things when you're dealing with dry yeast. And I think the question is kind of like, well, I can only get dry yeast. How do I deal with dry yeast? I think that's an excellent thought, John. Is once you've grown it for a batch, then it's essentially a liquid yeast. Because what happens when they dry a yeast? The yeast are going to express these proteins, these heat shock proteins that are all, become part of the yeast. So, if you brew a batch of beer with dry yeast and with liquid yeast, and one of the reasons we recommend liquid yeast, if you brew a batch with dry yeast and liquid yeast side by side, you will get a slightly different flavor from the dry yeast. You tend to get a touch more sulfur. My perception is touch more sulfur, kind of like a peachy ester. You get a different level of attenuation, a lot of little different things, and the beers will taste different. Not necessarily bad. And if you're brewing a high flavor beer like an American West Coast type of IPA, you can definitely do dry yeast, and it turns out quite well. When you're doing something more subtle, I think you really, yeast that's been dried is not necessarily the way to go. Now, like you're saying, you can go ahead and grow that up and get away from the cells that were stressed by the drying process.
Right.
A couple things on dry yeast. One is, if you're going to use dry yeast to start with, you always rehydrate your dry yeast properly. Don't listen to the thing that says sprinkle it on the hot. That's because they think a home brewer is an idiot and can't rehydrate the yeast properly and will kill the yeast. They'll use too hot or too cold, and too hot or too cold will kill the yeast. And sprinkling it on top of your wort will kill 50% of the cells. At least 50% of cells bring in dead. So half that yeast you're going to put in half of the yeast that you've bought and you've put into your beer is dead yeast. Not to mention the even if properly maintained in a refrigerated condition, you're losing about 4% a month on that yeast, right? So you get a whole bunch of dead yeast falling to the bottom of your fermenter, and then they're starting to break down. That's where you worry about yeast breaking down and why people got into the whole secondary thing. If you're starting with fresh, healthy, vibrant yeast, you don't have that problem. So I think, John, maybe the best thing is rehydrate and then make a starter and grow it up like there. Now the whole thing about not needing oxygen, which is what his question was, is the dry yeast manufacturers, they ramp these yeast cells up to get to the maximum trehalose, glycogen, all those reserves, and then they go ahead and dry them. So in theory, you pitch enough yeast and you rehydrate it properly, and that yeast is going. You don't need any oxygen in order to fully ferment out that batch of beer.
Right, because you got enough yeast cells to start with.
Right. However, that's going to affect flavor, because one of the things that affects flavor is, when you add oxygen, you have yeast growth. That yeast growth determines flavor.
Yeah.
Esters, fusels, all those things are dependent on the yeast growing. And if you pitch enough that you don't have growth, then your beer character changes. I did an experiment with that with lager yeast, and pitching enough that there was essentially no need for growth. And the beer was great. It was clean, and it attenuated out, but it didn't taste right. It was a little bit insipid, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't taste. There was something different about that beer. So, you need to have some growth. So, oxygen is one of the nutrients that the yeast uses in order to grow properly. That's essentially, a big part of it.
Yeah. If I think one point Jamil made is key. Whether you pitch enough dry yeast to not need to aerate, you will get a beer. You'll get a good beer, but it's going to be a different beer than if you had used dry yeast, rehydrated, grew it up, or used liquid yeast and grew that up in a starter. They're going to be two different beers, even for the same strain of yeast.
Right.
So, pick what's most convenient for you, and then work with it.
All right.
Great. Ready for another one?
Sure.
He's saying great. He's starting to not pay attention. That's what Justin says.
I have to run the show or something.
Yeah, he's working the board. He's working the chat. He's working the questions.
I'm working the paddle.
What?
This
doing
one,
a good job.
Thank you. Except for coughing in the mic like a noob. This one is from the chat. It's from Fyls Brewing. Fyls Brewing. And he goes, Q. Brewing a barley wine will end up bottling. After initial fermentation, is it better to put in secondary to age or bottle and age? How long for primary and secondary? So he wants to age it in the bottle, but he doesn't know if he should put it in a primary, then a secondary, and then bottle it, or just primary it and then bottle it and age it.
I'd say primary and bottle it. Depends on what his yeast was going into it, really.
Right. The only reason to secondary is that you want to do another stage with the wort, as far as fermenting out some fruits or some other flavors like oak or something like that, or dry hopping, things like that. Now, JP, you do a lot of oak aging of beer. Do you do secondaries? I would think you do.
I don't, because I have a conical fermenter.
You drop the yeast and then
drop the yeast and I do all that, and then I rack into a keg, and then I just put my oak in there or my nibs or whatever. But I don't. So maybe in a secondary, if you're using a conical, would be like transferring to a keg and let that drop, and then
and you do it in your keg, and then when you get the right flavor, you go ahead and transfer to another keg, or
actually, I just kind of let it go.
Just to see what happens. I've done that too. It's like,
but that's
who cares?
all I do. Yeah, and I've left nibs on some Scotch ale I had for like 10 months, and it was almost a little too. It started getting some tannin. So 8 months I think is the minimum or maximum for that stuff. But that's what I do. I leave the oak on, and I like seeing how it changes over time, because I'm not really a competition brewer. I like seeing how these things are working. So,
but the only reason for doing a secondary, so the reasons against secondary is that it stirs up everything, and it's going to take longer to clear again. It doesn't enhance clearing; it actually slows down clearing. The other thing is, if there's a big pile of yeast, especially if you pitch dry yeast, go back to the previous question, if you go pitch a bunch of dry yeast without rehydrating, and it's all laying out there on the bottom barfing up its guts, into your beer, then, well, yeah, you need to rack that off quickly. That's where the whole secondary thing came up.
Right.
But if you've got healthy yeast, a good healthy yeast is not going to die that quickly, especially in the home brewer situation where you got a carboy, a thin layer of yeast across the bottom, not a lot of hydrostatic pressure, not a lot of heat buildup, things like that. It's going to be fine for weeks. If not, the liquid yeast companies would not be able to sell you a product.
Right.
If it died completely within a week or 2 weeks, they wouldn't be able to sell you a product. All that, transferring off comes from the commercial brewers where you've got 100 barrels pressing down on, a cake of yeast in the bottom that's concentrated in this cone.
12 feet deep.
Yeah, and it's not being, it's not insulated, it's not jacketed, and it gets really hot, and the temperature can be, much higher in the middle of the cone, in the yeast, and, you're running into a problem.
Yeah, it's like a compost pile at that point.
A very good analogy. So, there you need to worry about it. But, as far as the homebrew otherwise, you transfer to secondary really just, when you have a specific reason to do it. Otherwise, in this case, barley wine, let it ferment out completely. You want the yeast to, especially in a barley wine, in higher gravity brew, diacetyl, acetaldehyde, things like that, you want to make sure it's completely consuming those compounds, and you're getting a good clean beer to start with. And then, you can age in the bottle. I like bulk aging, but you can age in the bottle as well. If you were to transfer at that point to a keg, evacuate all the air with CO2, and bulk age in a keg, I think that's better than in the bottle personally, but it really doesn't matter. But no, I wouldn't do it at room temperature in another glass vessel with a big headspace on it.
No. One of the key aspects of bottle aging a beer is that you're introducing a small percent of oxygen that results in a little bit of staling, a little bit of yeast growth. It changes the beer from what it was, in the keg. And in a style like barley wine or another heavy style like old ale, sometimes you're looking for that little bit of oxidative character as just some added complexity. Because you've got such a big beer that adds some accent, and so you can do that, and you can be happy with that kind of edge on it. But I agree. Doing a secondary at this stage of yeast health, we don't need to. It's
right. Yep. All right, let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll wrap up this Q&A session back after this.
When Blickman Engineering set out to design a great brewing stand, they knew it had to be strong, adaptable, and last for a lifetime. The top-tier brewing stand is now proudly available at BlickmanEngineering.com. It grows with your brewing skills and equipment. Start with 5-gallon coolers on its heavy-gauge stainless steel shelves. Then move all the way up to 30-gallon pots on the high-output burner tiers. Speaking of burners, the custom Blickman Engineering top-tier burners are extremely powerful, efficient, and amazingly quiet. They have safety stops to center your pot, and they'll last a lifetime and won't rust. The top-tier brewing stand allows virtually infinite combinations from traditional gravity systems to 2 tiers to completely horizontal. Configure your stand the way you want and have the freedom to change it at any time in the future. Your brewing stand should adapt with you, not force you to learn a new process. Visit BlickmanEngineering.com today to configure your top-tier brewing stand and to find a local Blickman retailer. You'll be surprised with all the flexible features and the competitive price. Start brewing with Blickman from the top tier.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of our 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Our Williams Belgian Pale Extract is mashed with pure Belgian 2-row malt and a small percentage of Belgian wheat malt for an authentic Belgian character you just can't get from other extracts. Or check out our unique fermenters, 2.5-gallon kegs, paintball tank-based draft beer equipment, bottling aids, and much more. We even have our own line of precision hydrometers. Go to WilliamsBrewing.com to browse our vast selection. That's WilliamsBrewing.com. Orders placed by 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Hey, what are you doing, man?
Writing a review of WLP 400.
What? You're reviewing yeast?
Yeah. White Labs has home brewer reviews of all their strains. Are you new to these interwebs? Check it out.
That's awesome.
White Labs, your source for great yeast, invites all brewers to visit whitelabs.com to read and write your own reviews of all their yeast strains. Get real-world tips and tricks from other brewers who have made the most of their vials and post your own experiences. It's another way White Labs brings you closer to the best yeast on the planet.
And send. There you go.
You misspelled flocculate, dude.
What? Mother...
White Labs. It's all in the vial. Organic ingredients. Fresh, clean, good for you, good for the planet. Seven Bridges has the best selection of organic ingredients, including over 27 varieties of organic hops at breworganic.com. Join their mailing list for special deals and regular updates. They've been brewing organic and serving organic brewers for 13 years. They can help you brew great organic beer. And Seven Bridges is the proud host of the 4th Annual National Organic Brewing Challenge, the only BJCP-sanctioned nationwide brewing competition just for organic beers. Take the challenge this fall for a chance to win great prizes, including stainless steel brew kettles and organic brewing ingredients. This year, the challenge will be judged in 2 locations: on the East Coast at Capital City Brewing in Arlington, Virginia, and on the West Coast at Gordon Biersch in San Jose, California. For complete details, visit breworganic.com/competition. Seven Bridges is cooperatively owned in awesome Santa Cruz, California. Everyone there is dedicated to great beer and people-friendly business practices. They offer environmentally friendly, fair trade, and fair wage brewing products whenever possible. Seven Bridges, breworganic.com.
Downtown Joe's, located in the historic Oberon building in beautiful downtown Napa, California, offers an award-winning brew pub experience from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day. For 15 years at the corner of 2nd and Main, Downtown Joe's has been voted Best Night Spot 7 times and Best Brew Pub for the last 4 years in a row. Brewmaster Colin Kaminsky's handcrafted ales, like his Tail Wagon Amber Ale and Double Secret Probation IPA, are the perfect accent to riverside dining, live music, and a relaxing outdoor patio. Don't miss the Beer of the Month, special rotating taps, and the BN Army Member Special. Wear your BN gear, get 10% off your beer. Visit downtownjoes.com to make reservations, peruse their extensive calendar of events, or just read more about their fantastic beers. Come enjoy the fine beer, food, and music. Downtown Joe's, the award-winning brew pub where you'll feel at home.
This is www.thebrewingnetwork.com. Sit down next to it, grab yourself a paper towel, and watch those yeast have sex.
You're listening to the Brewing Network.
Back to the 2 guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. We're wrapping up our second hour of Brew Strong Q&A questions, and that means we're about, 8 pints into it?
Yeah. We're the guys, I just thought this a little while ago, we're the guys that turn fear into beer.
We do. So the more scared you are, the more beer you can have. That's what that means.
No, not quite. But
yeah, see, I totally don't understand what the hell.
Okay, well, other guys will say, we fear no beer, right. But we turn fear into good beer, or
right.
brewing fear into good beer, or something like that.
New shirt.
Well, I get it.
We turn fear into beer. Brew Strong. Huh?
That's
okay,
right.
Yeah.
That's your new shirt right there.
You're not afraid to brew anything. I'll brew whatever I want. I don't care. I'm not afraid to do it because I have the knowledge of Brew Strong.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what we want to promote.
Palmer, you and I.
We got the shirt.
You've been to Saturn? Hey, I've been to Saturn. No, Beetlejuice. Okay. All right. What do you think? More questions?
More questions. Question from the chat.
Question from the chat from
my homies hanging out with us.
Disco Fetus.
Disco Fetus. I'm Discofinas.
Yeah, you are. He goes, when priming with brown sugar for bottling, how do you adjust for the weight when using Palmer's graph? I'm assuming there's some sort of graph you have.
Okay.
He goes, using standard sucrose, that is.
Yeah. Standard sucrose, no water in it. So you're getting 100% of the potential into, for priming. So if you look at the nomograph in Chapter 11, I think it is, that's giving you a weight of sucrose. Now, brown sugar, if you turn to Chapter, I think it's 19 or 20.
HowToBrew.com.
Yeah.
How to Brew.
How to Brew.
Third edition, available in the Brewing Network store. Signed.
Right.
By John Palmer himself.
And you won't find this information online, on the online version.
Oh, you're boned if you're a cheap-ass online user. Just buy a frickin' copy, for God's sakes.
Yeah, but in the third edition, chapter 19 or 20, I've got a table where I talk about the different amount of fermentables in different sugars, honey, brown sugar, molasses, etc., and the percent water. So the bottom line is, if you say that this particular sugar is 10% water and say 90% fermentable, well, you've got to
add 10% more.
Yeah, you got to take 10% more.
See how I did that quick math?
And then adjust. So to sucrose, if you need, let's say it's 6 ounces of sucrose, then you need to add 10% to make up for the moisture.
6 ounces.
There you go.
See, I did that math really quick.
And then if it's only 90% fermentable, then you've got to add another 10%
the
to cover
fermentability.
That. Right.
But brown sugar is pretty much fermentable just like sucrose is. And here's the thing about brown sugar. All right, don't be frickin' adding brown sugar thinking it's going to add all these brown sugar flavors to your beer. All right? Because brown sugar ain't crap in most cases. All right? Now, there's brown sugar where they caramel color the crap back and
it's just white sugar with caramel color.
Right, caramel color and a little bit of caramel flavor. Right? It's just pathetic. Now, if you're using very lightly refined sugar,
Turbindo, or
certainly there's some flavor contribution there, but again, it's very minor. But at least it's better than the colored white sugar, right? So, don't fool yourself. You're buying all this stuff and doing all these things. Same thing with honey. I got somebody who was talking about adding 1% honey or 1.5% honey to some beer. I'm like, just throw sugar in there. The honey isn't going to do. You're not going to taste anything from the honey in 1.5%. Just you go the cheapest possible, plain sugar route, beet sugar or whatever. It's you're not going to know the difference.
Right.
And I think the same thing. If you're dealing with brown sugar, think about it for a reason. Things like the darker, Belgian candy sugars, yes, there's flavor. The light candy sugar, you're fooling yourself. Just throw in sugar.
Well, if you're using the Belgian candy syrup, which is that is actual semi-refined sugar, so you're going to get a lot more flavor out of that because it's not been fully refined and then some color added back like some of the other solid forms.
I mean, but they have those, super clear sugars, and it's made by cooking sugar.
Right.
It's made by cooking beet sugar. And you might as just it's made into a syrup. They take beet sugar, they cook it into a syrup, they add water and cook it into a syrup, and you might as well just take beet sugar and throw it in your mash because they haven't cooked it enough to really develop the flavors. So it's essentially the exact same thing. The other syrups, they cook them until they become dark and black, and then those flavor developments, that's an important part.
Right.
And again, like on the brown sugars, they're taking a plain sugar and a lot of times just coloring it to make the brown sugar because they just process everything like a table sugar. But there are sugars that are not processed as clean, and there are some flavors. So that's one thing you can go for. So just keep that in mind when you're using these sugars. Don't listen to marketing hype. Just think about what's in it that you're actually going to taste differently. if you dissolve brown sugar and table sugar in a glass of water and close your eyes and drink them both, and you can, and somebody hands them to you differently and you taste the difference, okay, well then there's a flavor difference. If you dissolve, clear Belgian candy sugar and beet sugar and water, and somebody hands it to you, you can't taste the difference. That's because there's no difference. There's very little flavor difference. So you can save yourself some money by doing that. So just think about what you're adding to your beer and why. All right. Next question.
Again from the chat. Belgian inspired. Very nice name. Can you ask the boys an O2 question for me? I just acquired a medical tank, but I cannot find any good info on how long to use it. I have a regulator and an air stone. I want to know how long to hit my yeast starters and my 5-gallon batches.
Right.
That's a tough one.
Well, all right. So we can't tell you specifically what you're going to need to do. It's going to depend on your stone, and it's going to depend on what setting you do on the regulator. Assuming you have a medical regulator, that'll do like a half liter, 1 liter, or maybe quarter liter, half liter, 1 liter, 1.5, 2. That's a nice start because it's a good controlled flow, and you can use that and time. Now, the only thing we can't tell you is how much exactly you're going to need. It's going to depend on how much yeast you pitch, what temperature you're at, your wort gravity, what flavors you're looking for, a lot of little details. So this is why, Chris White from White Labs will say, well, it depends. It depends. Of course it depends. It depends on so many different factors.
Yeah, depth of the wort, one.
Right. In the fermenter geometry, if you're doing a carboy where it traps a lot of the oxygen on the top, or you're doing a bucket where most of the oxygen is, not trapped at the top, a lot of different things like that. The thing to do is measure, right? So you want to note, what rate you're flowing your oxygen. Let's say you start with a half a liter per minute, and you're doing a 5-gallon batch, or about a 19-liter batch of beer. And you will, take your sintered stone, put it to the bottom, and you will run that for a minute. Now, there you've got, various things that you're measuring. You got flow rate, and you got time, and you're going to repeat every batch that you do forward from that. You need to do exactly the same way as far as, batch size and fermenter type and all that, and wort depth. And if you do that, you can start adjusting the time or the flow rate, not both, but the time or the flow rate, and you can get to the point where you get the best flavor of the beer. And that, the thing to watch out for most people is, go ahead and hit it with, a bunch of oxygen. The thing you want to watch out for is kind of a solventy alcohol character.
Right.
And that's probably, that's a sign that you're going too much on your oxygen. Too little, it's not attenuating well, you're getting various odd esters. You can also get, weird solventy alcohols. So, when I do, 19 liters, 5 gallons of wort, I will do a half liter per minute, and I will do a minute of flow. And that tends to be about where my beer works out with my pitch rate of yeast. Of course, the pitching rate, determines whether you're using too much oxygen or too little. The yeast can take up the oxygen, and if you're pitching less or pitching more yeast, then that amount of oxygen may or may not be right. So you need to be following something like the pitching rate calculator on MrMalty.com, and stick with those numbers just until you understand why you should change those numbers. Just stick with those numbers, stick with the oxygen, stick with the temperatures, and once you understand what's going on, then tweak one of those parameters and say, I see what happens when I tweak this parameter. If you do that, you're on your path to making, exactly the beer you want to make. Right. You will be able to make, perfect beer.
Mm-hmm. Good summary.
Why, thank you.
Hey, you guys should hang out more together.
We do. you know, on the poop deck of the MS Brew Strong, drinking pina coladas. That's where we were last week.
Sounds lovely.
We held hands and everything.
That's good. All right, here's another chat question from Intab. JP, could you ask him this question? I brewed a Belgian Golden Strong based on the Duvel recipe from the BYO Clone magazine.
BYO.
It's been aging for about 2 months now, and it still has a very strong alcohol smell and taste to it. Pitched at 65, let it rise to 80 over 10 days. Should I dump it, or will the hot alcohol flavor go away over time? OG was 1080, FG was 1008.
Hot alcohol's not going to go away.
Right. I mean, you know, some of the alcohols will convert and change, but, you know, hot alcohol is always going to help hot alcohol. And, you know, a lot of it, again, is pitching rate and oxygenation and, you know, that initial growth and things like that affect that kind of fusel hot alcohol. You know, it's one of the things I hate most in high alcohol beers. You know, people brew beers and they just don't, you know, they're just solventy. So.
Yeah.
That's it?
Kind of, yeah, tend to pour it out. Or
I wouldn't pour it out. Yeah, if you got the storage space, you know, maybe someday, you know, give it to your alcohol guzzling friends who like headaches. Yeah.
And who doesn't? Really?
Who doesn't have a set of those, you know, hanging around? Here, bastard, go away. Drink this.
All right, let's get another one in here. This is from Brada Crispy. I just noticed, I mean like right now, that the temperature probe has dislodged from my fermenter. My Saison, which has been gradually raised from 68 to 74 over the past week, is now at 80.
Oh, my God.
Should I just leave it there for the duration or drop it back to 76 and continue the gradual temperature course it has been pursuing? It's probably only been at 80 for less than a couple of hours.
I would just leave it at 80.
Yeah, if it's fermented,
especially you've been going almost a week. Is that what he says?
A couple of hours. He said he's been going 64 or
to 70 something
to 70,
for how many days?
I don't think he said. Maybe here I erased it. Let's see. Undo. Over the past week.
So he's been going for a week. Yeah, at the end of a week, goose it up to 80 something. That's fine.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd worry about is leaving it at that for a long time because you will get some yeast death and you will get, you know, that could be a problem. But, you know, you're good for a week at 80 and then, you know, it's going to be fully attenuated. Probably going to turn out to be the best beer you ever made.
Mistakes like that happen.
Yeah.
It's odd.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, you know, ramping that temperature up, wouldn't you say, John?
Oh, yeah.
Ramping temperature towards the end really, you know, can help with attenuation and cleaning up all the odd flavors that you don't want. And all your alcohols and esters are already developed.
Yeah, yeah. So the important part of the fermentation at the beginning, he had nice and cool. And ramping up the end, yeah, he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, so you would keep it at the same temperature?
Keep it at the same temperature for another week and then start... Then keg it and condition it, or chill it and get ready to serve.
Yeah, I bet you it turns out great. Send us a bottle. We'd love it.
Yeah, please do.
All right.
Here's a good question that I thought was good. I liked it. It goes, "Hi there, Brew Strong Monsters. I have a question. My wife and I have been brewing for almost 20 years, but have taken the last 8 years off due to various circumstances. As we are getting back into this great hobby, I felt we have missed a lot of advancements. Can you give me some tips on the advances and changes to the processes that have occurred over the last 8 to 10 years? Maybe that's a really big... maybe that's a show.
Yeah, you know...
That's kind of big.
I saw that question in our brewstrong@thebrewingnetwork.com email, and I thought, you know, the one thing I would say over the you know, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the thing that I felt was really... fundamental instrumental change in brewing knowledge over the last 8 to 10 years is fermentation.
Yeah.
And yeast and, you know, starters and things like that.
Right.
I would recommend he gets a copy of Yeast by Homeboy and Dog Meat. It's available in the Brewing Network store.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I really think you're right. fermentation is yeast management and fermentation has improved a lot.
Absolutely, and that's your solution to figuring out what's changed over those years. Focus on fermentation, because that's the difference between commercial brewers and home brewers.
Yep.
Is fermentation, temperature control, pitching rates, and things like that. It's not wort production. Wort production is almost meaningless in that case.
Yeah.
All right. So another great Q&A show. If you enjoyed this, get yourself to thebrewingnetwork.com. Check out the store. Buy yourself a Brewing Network T-shirt of some kind or a hat or something like that. Brew Strong. We got great Brew Strong gear. We got books by John and myself.
Right.
Pick those up, and the vast majority of those profits go directly to the Brewing Network and keep shows like this on the air for you. That's right. Well, and don't forget, I know jiu-jitsu, and I know a few other Japanese words. So don't mess with me. Brew Strong.
Brew Strong, everybody.